This is Paul. Yes. I just want to talk to the men that are oaths of office. Yeah. See, these protection orders are oftentimes issued against men. Oh. If I look through the actual number of cases that were put into the Washington Crime Information Center, yes. Tell me how many, yes, actual protection orders. Now we know the statistics. 15% of men are domestically abused. Ouch. 85% of women are. But what does law enforcement think? We're there to protect the women and children. That's right, because men can be so fucking mean. Now, I'm going to look at law enforcement today, and I'm going to sue every cop in every police department because I'm a man. For all the time that you found it offensive that I used cuss words, yes, you thought, my goodness, he's got to be somebody really mean. Oh, every time I get that look in my eye like I'm going to put you in prison, you think, oh, no, he's not. I have a badge on. Now, for every cop in every police department that happens to be a man, what's the difference of how you see men? Men are scary. Men can take pain different than women, can't they? Now, see this protection order where my record was expunged? Yes. It was easier to believe the woman, wasn't it, that I was crazy? And you thought, well, if he has a problem, he can motion the court, and as a man, he can pay child support, and he can support his family, and then he can be found guilty of being a deadbeat dad, coach, because we do not have to answer a fucking email. But how many men have to pay child support versus how many women? Oh. Why don't you give me the disillusions of marriage and the actual orders for support? Just go through child support services and find out how many men are paying child support and how many women. Now, it looks to me like the courts feel an obligation to discriminate. Yes. And I think I can prove this in a court of law. Oh, that women are non-threatening, and you feel an obligation as a male judge or court commissioner to protect them, and that you have to do what they say because it protects Heidi and her children. Yes. See, isn't that what the state's response is, Cowgill? Ouch. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now, Heidi Budnick and her children. Yes. It's not, it protects Paul Budnick and his children. See, when a woman gives birth to children, judges and court commissioners feel like the children belong to the woman. Well, let's look at it again. Yes, the defendant is charged with violating a protection order. Yes, pursuant to RCW 26.50.110. In order to convict the defendant, yes, of this crime, the state must prove the following elements. Yes, that on or about December 31st, there existed a protection order. Sure, there is. This one, the protection order where the respondent didn't receive actual notice of the hearing. Ouch. Now, the state doesn't have to prove that they actually issued it according to the requirements of the RCWs of the state of Washington. All they have to do is prove that it exists, that they didn't use forgeries of ex officio superior court. The petitioner didn't actually have to be there. See, the state thinks that they have to protect the women and children. Isn't that right? Isn't that what the state is saying? Yes. We don't have to protect the rights of men. We don't have to do what the law requires. As long as a protection order exists that was issued for the protection of Heidi Budnick applicable to the defendant. Now, this Heidi Budnick, yes, that did not actually sign the protection order, yes, Mhm. That quite possibly didn't motion the court for the protection order. Yes, it seems that the court can issue court orders for the protection of women and children, and that the woman doesn't have to actually be there, doesn't have to motion the court, that the woman has to accept the protections of the court because as long as the court decides they are protecting the women and children. Now, as a man, I would say, Pooch, that the state of Washington, every state in the United States, has taken upon themselves to protect women and children because they are the weaker gender without actually having to protect the rights of women and children. Pooh. See, you, the state, decided, why don't you give me every man? Born in the United States for the last 60 fucking years. Because Mr. Calgo says that as long as it exists, Coach, we can arrest the individual. Yes, that I knew the existence of the order. Yes, he did. You served me in the Squim Public Library, didn't you? Yes. And you made sure to humiliate me in front of all the library patrons. But there's no such thing as wrongful execution of service because the state does not have to prove that they executed the order according to the requirements of the law. The state has no obligation to enforce the laws of the United States. They can issue any fucking court order they want against any man because they're protecting the women and children. Now, when you serve somebody other than the respondent, yes. Could you tell me who it was that the state thought should have a copy of the protection order because the petitioner didn't sign it? Did she get a copy of it? Now, that on or about December 31st of 2015, yes, the defendant knowingly violated a provision of the order restraining any contact with Mrs. Budnick. Oh. Well, I thought I was on the bus that morning. I wasn't in Squim, Washington. I thought I was in this library on December 31st of 2015 at 4:48 p.m. But this state does not enforce the laws of the United States. Now, Mr. Calgill, have you taken it upon yourself to protect all the women and children? Because it doesn't look to me like the woman actually wanted your protection order. You used a forgery to issue it. You wrongfully executed it in a Squim Public Library. You served somebody other than myself. And for some dumb fucking reason, you fuckers think that